Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with the Motorola Edge 30 Neo for a review. We've already unboxed the phone and found it to be one of the better looking entry-level phones this year, or perhaps even a mid-ranger. Seeing how we get optical image stabilization on the main camera, well, it's more of a mid-ranger. The color you see here is called Very Peri, is the color of the year 2022, courtesy of Pantone, and let's see what this device has to offer. So first things first, the price tag, it's 370 euros, and it was launched in Milan together with the Motorola Edge 30 Ultra and a 200 megapixel camera, plus the Motorola Edge 30 Fusion. We have an entire new lineup. Basically, this was supposed to be the Motorola Edge 30 Lite. It measures 7.8 millimeters in thickness and weighs just 155 grams. It should be made mostly of plastic, even though I've heard some people saying that this is actually glass, which would be excellent if you ask me. It has splash protection and it's very easy to wield with a single hand. Aside from this color you see here, there's also black onyx, ice palace and aqua foam. We have a dual tone camera approach. This part is glossy, this part is matte, and you can see it nicely reflecting the light. The phone is truly good looking, the youngsters are going to love it, and the fact that it's so easy to handle with a single hand. My only gripe would be that the buttons from here are a bit small and sometimes hard to find. We also have a bundle case to increase the grip, even though the flat frame already helps with that. Okay, so the screen, the panel you're seeing here is a P-OLED, plastic OLED, 6.28 inches with a pretty okay bezel thickness, not too thick and also not too slim. It has a Full HD Plus resolution and 120 Hz refresh rate. Now, if you actually want to see the screen in action, we have a video prepared for you, so let's check it out. Okay, so fitting everything on the screen and zooming into it, you can see that the experience is definitely immersive. I'm not a big fan of the curved corners, however I'm enjoying the brightness, how crisp it is, the excellent contrast even in the full sunlight, and some nice view angles. Definitely a quality plastic OLED panel. It also has a pental matrix pixel arrangement, and then we go further here and we can show you the result we achieve when it comes to the brightness. Okay, so we achieved a pretty impressive 628 lux units, which is, by the way, solid for a mid-range phone. It goes above Samsung Galaxy A53 and the Poco F4. It stays below the Motorola Moto G82 and below the Motorola Edge 30, as well as the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. If you want to check out some settings for this handset, you can definitely find them here. So if you go here, and then at the display department, you can find the brightness, adaptive brightness, dark theme, font size, but the most important is the colors, which can be natural, saturated, or you have a color temperature slider from cooler to warm. There's also display refresh rate, auto, 60 or 120 Hz, and I feel like I need to turn up brightness just a little bit for you. Okay, I think this is a bit better, and now going forward, I think it's time to move inside the phone, where you can find the familiar CPU, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G 6nm octa-core. Also available on quite a few other phones: Nokia X30, Sony Xperia 10 Mark IV, Honor Magic 4 Lite, and the list goes on and on. Accompanying it, we have 8 gigs of RAM, but there's also a version with 6. We also have 120 GB storage, but there's also a version with 256. There's no microSD here and definitely no lag. And when it comes to benchmarks, we have a few results for you. We go here, we press benchmark, we show you Antutu 9. We're just above the Moto G82, as you can see here, and above the OnePlus Nord CE2 Lite. We also surpassed the Oppo Reno 7 Lite. If I remember correctly, it has the same CPU. We are below the Galaxy A53, Realme 9 Pro Plus. Now going to the Geekbench 5 multi-core subtest, here we are above the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G. A more relevant comparison is the fact that we're surpassing the Galaxy A52 and A53 as well. It's the exact equal of the Moto G82, they have the exact same score, and it places below OnePlus Nord CE2 Lite and Oppo Reno 7 Lite, just so you know. Now, if you want to talk about the GPU, we have the 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme test for that. As you can see, we're just above Honor Magic 4 Lite and Moto G60. We're also beating the Galaxy A52. We are below the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G and the Vivo V21. It's a typical mid-range, not low mid-range, not high mid-range, just mid-range. Possibly the best aspect about it, even though it's so slim and so easy and so light, it doesn't get hot. 32 degrees Celsius in benchmarks and a mere 35.6, one of the coolest phones out there. Now it's time to discuss the battery. We have a 4020 mAh unit, which mimics the one we saw on the Moto Edge 30. The impressive news is that we're actually getting a fast charge here, 68 watts and a bundled charger, and apparently even wireless charging is on the table. Okay, so we start off with the video playback. We achieved a satisfying 17 hours and 31 minutes. It surpasses the Huawei Nova 9 and the Galaxy A52s 5G, plus the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. It's placed below the Xiaomi 12 Lite and the Galaxy A53. When it comes to continuous usage, here we are with 14 hours and 17 minutes. It's above Huawei Nova 10 Pro and OnePlus Nord 2T, which are two heavy hitters. It's below OnePlus Nord 2 and the Poco F3, plus the Motorola Edge 20 Lite, sort of its predecessor. Let's see the charger, how we're doing in the charging department. As you can see, just 40 minutes, which I'm pretty impressed by. And after a mere 15 minutes, you're already at 56%, also rather impressive. When it comes to acoustics, we have a stereo setup. There's the bottom speaker here, and there's the top one, the earpiece. We don't have an audio jack, but what we do have are plenty of Dolby Atmos settings and presets. You can see some of them here. Smart audio, music, movie, game, podcast, and custom. And custom has quite a few options to work with. Let's actually leave it to smart audio, and you can actually listen to some tunes now. Okay, so you just saw the two speakers splitting their duty. When I cover the bottom speaker, you're left without bass. When I cover the top speaker, you're left without high notes. Not the loudest volume I've heard recently, but at least the clarity is there. There's no distortion of the sound. That's a good piece of news. And I should probably also mention that the bass is pretty lacking, but we do have enough high notes for me and a clear voice. If you want a clear voice, these are the speakers for you. However, no records in volume. We did a decibel meter test and we achieved 71 decibels with the top speaker and 75.1 with the bottom one. Definitely not a record. I would say it's still surprisingly above the iPhone 14 Pro and above the HTC Desire 10 Lifestyle. Below hundreds of other phones including Galaxy A53 and Redmi Note 11. In games we're doing better. We have 98 decibels. With this value we went above Galaxy A53 and the Xiaomi 12X. We are below the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G and Poco F4. Finally, free of this whole music thingy, we can discuss the camera. And we start off with the cutout here, the punch hole for the selfie camera, 32 megapixel shooter with HDR and Full HD capture. Now at the back side we have this dual camera, and by the way, the area around it is able to light up, as you saw in the unboxing, which is pretty cool. So this white part here can light up when you're charging the phone, when you power it up, and even in some applications. Anyway, main camera 64 megapixel with optical image stabilization, already a surprise, f1.8 aperture. Secondary camera 13 megapixel ultra wide f2.2 120 degrees and autofocus for your macro needs. Sadly, we're limited to Full HD capture at 30 or 60 frames per second, and now I think it's time to go to the gallery and see some of the shots we've taken, and there's quite a few we have here. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. I have to say from the get-go that the pictures here have an element in common. They're very bright and also very saturated. That's a problem that happens when there is a very powerful sun outdoors. Interestingly enough, while the pictures with the main camera can be a bit too saturated and too exposed, the one with the ultra-wide camera are a bit darker, making them more satisfying. Obviously, we're lacking in zoom here on account of the fact that we don't have a telephoto camera, and as you can see, the pictures taken with the sun in front of us may lead to some strange effects. Now, this is the zoom test, this is the maximum 10x level, and even though it may appear good here on a larger screen, well, it's not that impressive. Now, if you get the proper alignment of the sun with your position, you'll have some decent color, but otherwise you'll encounter some oversaturation and overexposure. And as you can see in the shade, while the ultra-wide camera was decent, in the sun, in the shade, it becomes, well, the generator of lots of noise. Now, the selfies are probably the best thing about this camera. I'm loving the texture, the details, the clarity, and also nice focus, by the way, which will also be encountered in the bokeh department. Okay, more shots here. The sky is white every once in a while in these shots instead of blue. And let's see further. One hue that the camera captures correctly is the red, definitely, and also some of the blues. Here we took a portrait shot of this Pink Panther and it came out okay. And here we have another batch of selfies, this time with the plus of also adding bokeh in the mix, with a pretty correct cutout of my face compared to the background. I have to say that overall the selfie camera feels better than the main camera, even though we have some pretty cute looking flower shots, as you can see here, in texture and details and focus, even though the wind was very strong, kept moving the flowers out of my way, so I had to do this for a macro shot, which is one of the best I've taken in recent history, so there's that. Loving the texture here of the water and its spray towards me, and this is the ultra-wide version, which is a bit darker, as you can see for yourself. Now, in general, I expected a bit more from this camera, I'll be totally honest with you, but if you manage to get an area which is not too shady or too sunny, you'll be happy with the results. Perhaps after a drop of $100 in price. There are multiple filters which you can apply to your selfies, as I did here, quite a few, reinforcing the idea of a handset for the youngsters. And these are the pictures where you can clearly see the true mid-range identity of the phone, as it's lacking in detail once you start to crop and zoom. So overall, aside from the hue of red, the selfies and the macros, not much to write home about. And by the way, we also have those nifty little close-ups of objects. Okay, so now we go to the night time where things aren't very flattering. This is a regular shot, this is an ultra-wide shot which is very messed up. The zoom is lacking, of course. The focus was quite decent on this small dragon. And one thing that's good about this camera is the moment when you apply the night shot. However, the contrast becomes a bit too intense for my liking, with the bottom area here, the floor, becoming pitch black in this version with the night mode. So there are sacrifices to be made. You're going to lose the natural look of the colors and gain in details and clarity. So it's a trade-off some people may not be willing to make. Okay, so once again, if you don't plan on using the night mode, you better stay away from taking shots during the nighttime, and the ultra-wide is a bit of a letdown in the day and the night. Now, if you want to see the videos, we're going to use this app. We have 16 clips, and I was particularly curious regarding the stabilization test. That's why we have two of them. Test number 1, which is without the special stabilization option activated. I mean, it's not bad, but you can definitely tell that I'm stepping with the right foot and the left foot. You can feel each of the movements. And then we turn the stabilization on and descend it another set of stairs, this one here. The movement is a bit more fluid. You're not feeling my steps anymore, the right and left foot. However, there is a problem. There's a bit of trepidation and vibration of the image which shouldn't appear on a stabilized capture. One thing I was reasonably happy with is the focus on the foreground and the background and the alternation between that. I'm seriously upset that we're just limited to Full HD capture here, expected 4K, and this also limits us when it comes to details. Let's try and see something more colorful like this clip here. Now the problem here, which you can probably see for yourself, is the way the camera constantly tries to compensate for the movement with stabilization, making you feel like you're rocking on a boat. If you're watching this clip on YouTube, you're going to see a movement like this as the camera compensates for your motion. The color red looks fine, but once again, we don't have many details. It's just Full HD and it doesn't cut it in 2022. And in the low light conditions, things are pretty grim. They're not pretty impressive. Lots of noise, lack of clarity, big light sources. It's true it was a rainy night, which may account for some of the drawbacks, but let's see another clip here in a less rainy situation. Lots of noise, not a very usable footage, so there's that. Maybe if you pan slowly and you have a tripod, you may have some success, but overall, not very impressed by the camera as a whole, considering the price. When it comes to connectivity, the phone has dual nano SIM card slots. It can provide you with Wi-Fi dual band, attention, not Wi-Fi 6. It has 5G connectivity, Bluetooth 5.1, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo and NFC. The port at the bottom is a surprising USB-C 3.1, which can output video for the ready for thing. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and here we have the speed test results. Okay, so on 5G, it's a pretty impressive 491 megapers download, 57.4 megapers upload. On Wi-Fi, 263 download and 333 upload. I expected Wi-Fi 6, but it's another compromise to get the phone to a lower price, or maybe not exactly lower. When it comes to the software, we're running on Android 12 with the usual Motorola extras. This is the leftmost feed for the news. I'm using the swipes to trigger the recents. We also have multitasking to do this gesture for back, for home, and this gesture here will be used for back, swiping from the side. Now, with that out of the way, let's see what we have here. So, if you keep the screen pressed, you're treated to the good-looking widgets area, which has evolved with Android 12. And Motorola's involvement comes here. It's called MyUX and includes a customization option area, layout, fonts, colors, icon shapes, sounds, display size, font size, themes, as you can see here, and wallpapers. Quite good looking. These are the gestures. Aside from the swipes I did earlier, there are extras to trigger a variety of apps and features. We have tips. Still, they won't use always on display, but rather peak display and attempted display as replacements. And this is the area with the gaming features, media control and Dolby Atmos. As I said before, gamers get a special sidebar, blocked calls, gestures, and other enhancements. Now, the other feature which Motorola adds to the experience is called Ready For. There are two facets of it. You can connect to a PC or tablet, and these are the features. You can stream applications towards them. You can also do this mobile desktop, put the phone down and view and use the phone on a larger screen. Give the internet connection from the phone to the PC or laptop, basically your 4G or 5G. Share files easily, instant sharing, and well, that's about it. There may be a few more. This one you're already familiar with. It's the good old basic version of the Ready For. You can connect to a display, you can connect to a game controller, you can connect to a keyboard and mouse, or use your phone as a trackpad for a PowerPoint presentation, for example. That's what Ready For is all about, at a lower price point this time. We don't have many pre-installed apps, there's no bloatware here, and I think that's pretty much it as far as the phone is concerned. Now, if you want to talk about the security, we have a fingerprint scanner in the screen, and it goes like this. Fast unlock and pretty accurate. We have digital well-being and parental control, and the privacy area with a privacy dashboard. I think it's about time we discuss the verdict for the handset, on account of the fact that we have reached the end of the review. We have pros and cons for you here at gsandom.com, and on the pro side, it's got a cute design. Nobody can deny that. This area is able to light up. Let me just maybe put in a timer so you can see it shine as I keep blabbing away about the verdict. Okay. Hopefully the area that lights up on the back side will be triggered and will be activated. Sound and lights. You can probably see it lighting up. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get back to it. So, pros and cons. On the pro side, it's a good looking phone with excellent grip and one-hand usage. At the same time, it has a brilliant screen. I'm talking here about the brightness and colors. Good battery life and fast charging. Some nice selfies taken with the selfie camera. And appealing nighttime photos, as well as the red colors were nicely captured, plus the macros. Fast 5G and Android 12 with MyUX. Of course, Ready For is also a plus. As far as the minuses are concerned, the cons, it's still pretty pricey for what it offers. Now, the speakers haven't impressed me very much, even though it's supposed to be a stereo setup. We don't have a microSD card slot, we don't have Wi-Fi 6, we don't have 4K capture, and the ultrawide camera felt a bit weak at times. Also, the exposure and saturation may cause some problems, and overall the camera doesn't quite impress me. I'm talking about the main one, of course. Now, that's pretty much it. If the price were about $100 or maybe $50 lower, we would talk about this device completely differently. But still, just limited to Full HD capture doesn't cut it nowadays, and it's a pretty underwhelming camera, this dual camera setup here. In the end, youngsters are probably going to buy it for the design, of course for that lit up camera gimmick, maybe some gaming, maybe some video watching, because you have enough battery and enough screen for it. But if you want a camera at this price point, it's better served with another brand or even another Motorola phone maybe. However, if you're just posting stuff on Facebook every once in a while on Instagram, it's already compressed and may look well enough on the small screen. Probably keep that in mind once you buy a new phone. Okay, that's about it. This has been the review of the Motorola Edge 30 Neo, a phone which is better used for gaming or video watching rather than its camera. That's it from us. Goodbye.